Good happy Wednesday morning to you all. Welcome to my live Wednesday. Today I am going live with none other than Liz Leader with SVN Commercial. She is a commercial real estate expert. Hello, Liz.
Hi, good morning. This
How
rainy.
are you?
I'm doing really well. Thank you.
Excellent. Well, thank you for taking the time to be with us today. I appreciate that.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate that.
Of course. So I always love to spring this on my guests and never give them any time to prepare for it, which is kind of how I roll. I want you to introduce yourself a little bit, how you got into this, how long you've been doing it. But the most important part for me is you have to answer my very favorite question, which is you have to tell us something not a lot of people know about you.
Okay. My name is Liz Leader. I am a commercial real estate broker with SVN Denver Commercial. And I've been doing this about 8 years. Prior to that, I was practicing law. I still am a licensed attorney. However, I just wasn't finding enjoyment in what I was doing. So this has really been a great fit for me. I've always had a knack in terms of knowing what's going to happen in the real estate market, particularly when it comes to commercial buildings. And I've been pretty successful. I've done a lot of buyer tenant rep, also take listings and work throughout the country. Some things some people don't know about me. I grew up playing 3 instruments and went to Interlochen Arts Camp one summer and played all 3 instruments and tried to sing, but as you can tell, that's not a good fit for me singing.
All right. So you mentioned your knack for kind of knowing what was coming. So I mean, I think that's the biggest question that most of us probably have on our minds is where do you see commercial real estate going in the next year or two?
Quite honestly, it's many areas, as some of you have seen in news reports, are doing very well. Industrial, extremely well. It's hard to find smaller industrial spaces. We could continue using that, believe it or not. Retail has remained strong, including your regional retail strip centers have remained quite strong in lieu of the mall. That's where you're going to still see a bit of struggling, as we already have. But do expect to see people continuing to get into retail centers because people are visiting those. As for office, we have seen a lot of strengthening in our suburban offices. No, we have not seen any base rents go down because it's just still remaining strong. And in fact, some rents have gone up. Yes, we will continue to see some issues with the return to office, especially because this seems to be the never-ending pandemic. But you'll find a lot of the larger companies and Class A buildings are continuing to pay their rent and are trying to figure out ways to get their employees back in the office because with the exception of certain jobs, we need to see each other and it's important. So I think we'll see a future of a lot of hot desks where you don't necessarily have an office, but you can come in, take a desk and leave as you need. And we'll see a future where now we know that parents can take time off to visit with their children and bring them to appointments and go to plays and sporting events and still get their work done. So, I still see a strong commercial real estate market in our future.
Okay. So one of the questions that just popped up in chat was, if somebody was looking, what would be the advantage of using a CRE like you versus just calling the 303 number of a place that they see or that they found?
Well, first of all, oftentimes you're just not going to get a call back from some of those brokers because they just aren't going to deal with you. The second reason that it's a great reason to use me is because one, I'm going to give you the knowledge of what you have to be ready for, having your financials in order, knowing what the different costs are. So often in offices, there's what's called a triple net lease, a base rent, and then you're paying your pro rata share of the landlord's insurance, taxes, and CAM expenses, which can go up and down because those can include things like snow plowing. Plus, I know what things I can ask for, like more dollars for a tenant improvement allowance, or if they're going to maybe create your office or retail space turnkey. And I know a lot of the players in the market. So I know how to go about helping you. And it's the same as any buying a house. I work for free for you until the landlord pays me on the deal. So you really have nothing to lose, and most importantly, it saves you time.
Fantastic. So, what are some of the tenant improvements that you've been able to negotiate for some of your clients?
Well, my biggest client, we're able to often get turnkey builds, which includes, due to the fact they do drug and alcohol rehabilitation. When we have inpatient facilities, they'll build out everything, including the rooms, make sure that there's the proper sprinkler system, the flooring, walls, everything. But it honestly depends on the length of term, the kind of use, the landlord. There's so many factors that play into that, and the location. So certain landlords are not going to be open to certain uses. Some will. And it's, then you have to worry about zoning. Another reason you should use a commercial real estate broker, because that's something we can look into.
Okay. Is there anything that is there any specific field that you specialize in? Anything where you're like, yes, these are my people. I got these guys. Let's go.
I'm the rare broker that's a bit industry agnostic and also geographically agnostic. I will say that I have quite a niche in behavioral health, but I also work with law firms, multiple offices. I love industrial, and interestingly, because of how I started off repping buyers and tenants, I also have a deep knowledge of breweries and distilleries, and I've worked with companies such as Left Hand and the Block Distilling Company. So, I'm a bit of a weirdo, so to speak, in the industry. And if it's something that I'm not as familiar with, then I'm going to bring value to my client and hook up with another broker who may have more experience in that, because that's my goal, is to bring my clients value.
And I think you mentioned this at the beginning, but refresh my memory. How long have you been doing this?
Almost 8 years. So
Nice.
yes, 7.5, 8 years. Started in 2015, I believe.
Okay.
So yeah, it's been, I think, 7.5, almost 8.
What is one of the most rewarding things about your job? What's one of the things that you just absolutely love the most about your job?
I love seeing when my clients, for example, I end up being multiple brokers in. And so like I just had a deal that closed where I told the client, you can get this amount of money, and it was 3 members of an LLC, and they, were like, oh, we can only get 1.8 million. We ended up selling a piece of land for 2.225 million cash. They didn't have to pay a broker's fee. And I was the 4th or 5th broker. So when I can get through tough situations like that, that is really rewarding, and winning over all of the clients. Really awesome.
I like that. All right, another fun question for you.
Okay.
What's one of the craziest things you've seen on a showing?
Unfortunately, nothing too crazy. I wish I had something to tell you. And I'm thinking back, and sorry, my light, of course, right when this is the first time I've ever done it, it's flicking off and on.
No problem.
Early in my career, I got a client into a space, and then we learned who wanted to buy it, and we learned there was a lot of environmental issues that you have to deal with, or prior owners have to deal with. Also another interesting thing, and that can become very interesting on who to pin the blame on. So, he said, she said type of issues.
So would you say that with your background in legal, you bring an additional layer to helping your client when it comes to like the contract? Because I've never bought or never rented, leased commercial space myself, but I've heard that the paperwork that you have to get through is like just miles and miles thick. So is that something you think that your background helps you with in your clients?
It does help me. And first of all, I have to be extra careful. So I have to advise my clients to hire their own attorney. But what I often do is read through the contracts or leases and say legal issue, talk to your attorney, because I can't do it because I'm in the state of Colorado. I can't be your attorney unless you signed a waiver, and I'm not going to do that. So I'm wearing my broker's hat. But I'm going to tell you how that helps. And plus, with my biggest client, I'm allowed to talk to their attorneys carte blanche. And they often open up with me a lot more than they would other brokers because I understand what they're talking about and I understand my client. And also, I can get into zoning and I'm able to dig a little more than maybe your average broker just because of my background. And again, those negotiation skills and I'm often like the second, third, fourth, fifth broker coming in on deals because I have an ability to kind of back away and maybe more objectively deal with a situation.
Okay. You mentioned geographic earlier. Where do you see the commercial real estate, kind of expanding to? Are we looking more into Aurora? Are we pushing out into buyers? Am I totally off in those assumptions?
We're pushing out east. We're particularly hot is pushing into northern Colorado at the moment, but also out east. Aurora also getting quite big. There's a new life sciences type of industrial flex building that has been built and is continuing to be expanded upon. Also down by Colorado Springs at the airport, south of the airport. Really, there's going to be a lot of investment there with mixed use, retail, industrial, office. It just keeps growing. And I don't see it slowing down anytime soon.
Okay. Well, again, I want to thank you for your time. One final question for you. If you could leave my audience with one thing to not forget about what you do, what would that be?
I'm going to help you and help you save time so you can get the right commercial real estate space or so that you can dispose of any properties you may have with ease.
Fantastic. This is your time now to be a little bit selfish. So feel free to talk, how people can find you. I know it's been scrolling at the bottom, but some people listen in on this as they're driving and stuff. So feel free to tell people how they can find you.
Absolutely. My cell phone number is 720-840-3960. My email is liz.leder, Leder, at SVN.com.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. And thank you for your time.
Thank you, BK. Appreciate
Absolutely. And thank you guys for tuning in today. Like I said, that was Liz Leder with SVN Denver Commercial. If you guys have any questions about commercial real estate, anything like that, she is really well connected. She is going to take amazing care of you. I wouldn't bring her on if she wasn't, but she's absolutely fantastic. I've known Liz a really long time, and every time I talk to her, I'm learning something new. So it's been amazing. Stay tuned for next week. We've got a couple additional interesting lives coming up. I'm going to try and do a live on location with a chocolatier, which is probably going to be more fun for me than anybody else because I'll be able to eat the chocolate and the rest of you won't. But hey, that's the perks of doing these lives is I get to have some fun occasionally. I'm going to try and do a brewery tour. We're going to talk to somebody about the United States Marine Corps Memorial. We've got a really great slate coming ahead at you. So be sure to check my Facebook page about the different updates that I have going on. And yeah, if you know anybody who's looking to purchase or refinance and you haven't sent them my way, why not? Send them my way. I'd be happy to take care of them. Thanks, guys.